The obsidian palace of Ember Prime had stood for 8 centuries, its spires piercing the violet sky like ancient talons. Within its deepest chamber, Emperor Thalvor lay dying. His massive form stretched across a platform of carved stone. Scales that once shimmered with bioluminescent glory, now dulled to ash gray. The Drakthar Emperor's twin hearts, both failing, beat an irregular rhythm that echoed through the vaulted chamber. 6 solar cycles. That's what the physicians had given him. Thalvor had ruled for 800 years. He had seen empires rise and crumble. He had watched stars be born and die. Now, finally, his own end was coming. He welcomed it. The weight of living forever had grown too heavy. The loneliness of being treated like a god had become too much to bear. "Leave me," he commanded. His voice still carried power, even though his body was weak. The attendants bowed low and left the room. They closed the massive doors behind them. Thalvor was finally alone in the silence he had wanted for decades. Outside the palace, the empire was falling apart. Without their immortal emperor, the 12 star systems faced collapse. Rival noble houses were already fighting for power. Generals whispered in dark corners about who would rule next. Planets prepared for war. But Thalvor no longer cared. He had given everything to his people for 800 years. He had made impossible decisions. He had sacrificed his own happiness again and again. He had never married, never had children, never had friends, only subjects who feared and worshipped him. What kind of life was that? To be alone forever? To watch everyone you might care about grow old and die while you remain unchanged? He was tired, so very tired. The physicians had tried everything. The best medical minds in 12 star systems had examined him. They all said the same thing. His twin hearts were dying together. The Drakthar people had special hearts that worked in pairs. When one failed, both failed. There was no cure, no treatment. Nothing could save him. Thalvor closed his eyes and waited for the end. He did not expect the silence to be broken by a crash. Far above the palace, a human transport shuttle was in trouble. The solar storm had come without warning. Lightning arced across the violet sky. The shuttle systems failed one by one. Alarms screamed in the cockpit. Lee Hanna gripped her seat as the shuttle spun out of control. She was a mechanic, not a pilot, but right now that did not matter. The ship was going down. "Brace for impact," someone shouted. The shuttle hit the ground hard. Metal screamed. Glass shattered. Hannah's head hit something, and stars exploded across her vision. Then everything went quiet except for the hiss of escaping air and the crackle of small fires. Hannah groaned and unbuckled her harness. Her head hurt. Her ribs hurt. Everything hurt. But she was alive. She looked around the destroyed cabin. The pilot was unconscious, but breathing. The other crew member was trapped under debris, but alive. "Hold on," Hannah said. "I will get help." She crawled through the twisted metal. Smoke filled her lungs. She could smell fuel leaking. The shuttle could explode any second. She squeezed through a gap in the hull and dropped onto alien ground. She looked around. Strange plants with crystal leaves grew everywhere. They chimed softly in the wind like bells. In the distance, she saw the palace. It was massive and black, rising to the sky like a mountain of carved obsidian. Hannah realized where she had crashed. The diplomatic district, the heart of the Draconis Empire's capital world. She had just illegally crashed right next to the most important building in 12 star systems. "Well," she muttered, wiping blood from her forehead, "can't get more dead than I already am." She needed to find help. The palace was her best option. Maybe she could find a communication terminal. Maybe she could call for rescue before the palace guards found her and executed her for trespassing. Hannah walked through the crystal garden. Her legs shook. She left a trail of blood behind her. The palace doors were enormous, made of metal she did not recognize. They were unlocked. She slipped inside. The palace was a maze of corridors. Everything was huge, built for beings much larger than humans. Hannah felt like a child in a giant's house. She wandered through hallways of polished stone, following passages that seemed less guarded. Finally, she pushed open a massive door and froze. The creature before her was unlike anything she had seen in person. A dragon, That is what humans call the Drakthar. He was enormous, lying on a stone platform. His scales were gray and dull. His breathing was labored. He opened one golden eye and looked at her. Neither of them spoke for a long moment. Then Hannah said the first thing that came to her mind. "You look terrible." Thalvor opened one golden eye. A human stood in his chamber, small, covered in soot, staring at him with wide eyes. "You're really big," she said finally. Despite everything, Thalvor felt amusement. "You should be terrified." "Oh, I am," the human said. She took a few steps closer. "But you look worse than I feel. You're dying." Very observant for a trespasser, Thalvor said. His voice rumbled through the chamber like distant thunder. "Lee Hannah, I'm a mechanic." She wiped soot from her face. "What's killing you?" Thalvor studied her. Any other day, guards would have executed her for entering his chamber. But he had dismissed everyone. And something about her directness was refreshing. No one had spoken to him this casually in centuries. "My hearts, both are failing. When one stops, the other stops too. It's how my species works." Hannah tilted her head. "May I look?" "Why would I allow that?" "Because you're dying anyway. What's the worst that could happen?" She pulled a small device from her tool belt. "This is a medical scanner. It won't hurt." Thalvor gestured weakly with one claw. "Do as you wish." Hannah approached him carefully. Up close, she could see how massive he truly was. His body was easily 30 feet long. Each of his scales was as large as her hand. She held up the scanner and began running it over his chest. The device beeped and hummed. Hannah frowned at the readings. She moved to different positions, scanning from multiple angles. She muttered to herself in Korean. Thalvor watched her with growing curiosity. "Interesting," she said after 20 minutes. "What is interesting about death?" "Your hearts work like coupled engines. They synchronize perfectly. If one fails, the rhythm collapses and both stop." She looked up at him. "Humans had similar problems with heart rhythm. We developed bridge graphs." "I do not understand human medicine." "Bridge graphs connect heart tissue to stabilize the rhythm. We could do something similar for you." Hannah paused, "But it would require donor tissue. And there are no other Drakthar with compatible hearts, right?" "Correct. My bloodline is unique. That is why there is no cure." Hannah was quiet for a moment. Then she said something that shocked him. "What if we use human tissue?" Thalvor stared at her. "That is impossible. We are completely different species." "Probably, but hearts are just pumps. Rhythm is rhythm. If we combined human cardiac tissue with your biocrystals and connected it with mechanical support." She trailed off, thinking, "We could create a hybrid organ, something that bridges both biologies." "You speak madness." "I speak engineering." Hannah met his golden eyes. "I could share part of my heart. We'd build a hybrid organ that connects to both of us. It might stabilize your failing heart long enough for your body to heal. It would kill you. Maybe, maybe not. We won't know unless we try." Thalvor studied her carefully. "Why would you risk your life for me? You do not know me." Hannah shrugged. "I'm already in your palace illegally. I'm already probably going to be executed. And honestly, I'm a mechanic. I fix things. You're broken. Let me try to fix you. You are insane. I've been called worse." She smiled slightly. "Do you want to live or not?" That was the question, wasn't it? Minutes ago, Thalvor had been ready to die. He had welcomed the end. But now, this strange human was offering him a chance. A crazy, impossible chance. And something in him, something he thought had died long ago, stirred. Curiosity, hope, the desire to see what happened next. "If we do this," Thalvor said slowly, "my physicians must approve. They must believe it can work." Call them. Within an hour, the chamber was filled with Drakthar physicians and human doctors. Hannah's colleague, Park Miho, had survived the crash. He arrived with their medical equipment. The physicians examined Thalvor. They studied Hannah's scans. They argued in multiple languages. "This is unprecedented," one Drakthar physician said. "It violates every principle of biology." Another added. It might work, Park Miho said quietly. He looked at the scans. The math is sound. If we use nanoscaffolding to bridge the tissue and integrate it with the biocrystals, it's possible. The head physician, an ancient Drakthar named Velmoth, looked at Thalvor. My emperor, this is extremely dangerous. For both of you, the human will be permanently connected to you. If it fails, you both die. Thalvor looked at Hannah. You understand the risk? I understand. Why? Hannah thought about it. Because someone has to try the impossible things. Otherwise, nothing ever changes. Thalvor made his decision. After 800 years of careful, calculated choices, he made an impulsive one. We proceed. Prepare for surgery. The physicians bowed and began preparations. Hannah sat down, suddenly realizing what she had just agreed to do. Park Miho sat beside her. Are you sure about this? He asked in Korean. No, she admitted, but I'm doing it anyway. The surgery would take 2 days. Neither of them knew if they would survive it. The connection was deeper than physical. Hannah felt Thalvor's emotions bleeding through. Centuries of loneliness, the weight of empire, a bone-deep weariness. He felt hers, quick human joy, sharp anxiety, fierce determination. This is unsettling, Thalvor admitted during recovery. Hannah lay in a bed beside his platform. She touched her chest. Beneath her ribs, she felt 2 heartbeats, her own small human heart, and somewhere through the connection, his massive ancient one. The rhythm was strange but steady. Unsettling is one word for it, Hannah said. I can taste colors that don't exist. Is that normal for your species? Yes. You are experiencing Drakthar sensory perception through our link. Great. My brain is going to explode. But it was more than senses. Hannah felt his emotions like waves crashing over her. The loneliness hit her first. 800 years of being alone, of being worshipped but never known, of watching everyone around him age and die while he remained unchanged. The weight of it made her want to cry. Thalvor felt her emotions too. Human feelings were so quick and intense compared to his. Her anxiety jumped and sparked like electricity. Her determination burned hot and fierce. Her joy, when she managed to smile despite the pain, was bright and pure. He had forgotten what it felt like to feel things so strongly. Your emotions are very loud, Thalvor said. Your loneliness is very heavy, Hannah replied. They were quiet for a moment. I am sorry you have to feel that, Thalvor said finally. I'm sorry you lived with it for so long. Over the next weeks, they recovered together. Hannah's body struggled to adapt. The Drakthar biology flowing through their connection was changing her metabolism. She needed more food. Her strength increased. Her senses sharpened. Sometimes her eyes glowed faintly in the dark. Thalvor struggled too. Human emotions were exhausting. He felt anxious about things he had never worried about before. Small things, what people thought of him, whether he had said the wrong thing, feelings he had not experienced in centuries. How do humans live like this? He asked one day. Your emotions are constant. We don't have a choice, Hannah said. We just feel everything and deal with it. It is exhausting. Welcome to being human. They spent hours talking. Thalvor told her about the Empire, about the burden of ruling 12 star systems, about making decisions that affected billions of lives, about the loneliness of being treated like a god instead of a person. Hannah told him about Earth, about growing up in the colonies where resources were scarce, about learning to fix things with whatever was available, about humanity's stubborn refusal to give up even when logic said they should. Your species is very determined, Thalvor observed. We're too stupid to know when we're beaten, Hannah said with a grin. But not everyone was happy about their connection. The court was divided. Some nobles called Hannah a hero who saved their emperor. Others called her a parasite who contaminated their divine leader with inferior human biology. The whispers started small. Then they grew louder. Then they became threats. The first assassination attempt came on the 3rd week. Hannah was walking to the palace gardens when a blade whistled past her ear. She dove behind a crystal plant as more blades flew. Guards appeared and caught the assassin, a noble from House Velcron. Through their connection, Thalvor felt her fear spike. He was in a council meeting when it happened. He stood so fast that his chair shattered. His roar shook the entire palace. "She is under Imperial protection," he thundered. "Touch her, and I will burn your house to ash. I will scatter your name across the void. 12 systems will know your treachery." The nobles in the meeting bowed low, terrified, but Hannah noticed something else. Something she felt through their bond but did not mention. She was getting weaker. The connection was consuming her life force faster than the doctors predicted. Her human body could not sustain the link indefinitely. She had maybe a year, maybe less. She said nothing to anyone, not to Park Miho, not to the doctors, not to Thalvor. But 6 months later, Thalvor felt it. Through their bond, he sensed her deterioration. Her heartbeat was growing strained. Her life force was burning like a candle in a storm. One night, he confronted her. "You knew," he said. His voice was quiet but filled with rage and anguish. "You knew this would kill you." Hannah met his golden eyes. "Yes." "We sever the connection. Now." "No, this is not a request. I will not allow you to die for me." "Too bad. It's already done." Hannah stood firm despite her weakness. "Your empire needs you. Billions of people depend on you. I don't want this. Not at your cost." Thalvor's emotions flooded through their bond. Rage, fear, grief. Centuries of controlled emotions breaking free. "It's not your choice," Hannah said. "It was mine. I made it." They fought bitterly. Their emotions amplified through the link until both were exhausted. But Hannah would not change her mind. Thalvor refused to accept it. He threw the Empire's resources into finding a solution. Human and Drakthar scientists worked together desperately. Every day, Hannah grew weaker. Every day, Thalvor felt more desperate. Then House Corval attacked. Thalvor felt it 6 months in, Hannah's life force burning like a candle in a windstorm. "You knew," he said, rage and anguish mixing through their bond. "Yes." "We sever it. Now." "No." Hannah stood firm. "Your empire needs you. I don't want this. Not at your cost." "Too bad. It's done." But Thalvor refused to accept her sacrifice. He had spent 800 years making impossible decisions. Now he would make one more. He commanded every scientist in the Empire to work on a solution. Human doctors and Drakthar physicians collaborated day and night. The brightest minds in 12 star systems searched for a way to save her. Dr. Kim Soo-yun led the human medical team. Park Miho worked beside him. They ran test after test. Every result showed the same thing. Hannah's body was burning itself out to sustain the connection. "We need more time," Dr. Kim said. "Time is what we don't have," Thalvor replied. Then the attack came. House Corval had been waiting. The rival nobles had watched the Emperor's condition for years. They had built their forces in secret. They believed Thalvor was weak now, distracted by his connection to a human. They thought it was time to strike. Their fleet appeared in orbit around Ember Prime, without warning. 50 warships. Enough to destroy the capital, if needed. "Surrender the throne." Lord Corval's message broadcast across all channels. "Your time is over, Thalvor. Step down, or we will take it by force." Alarms screamed throughout the palace. Guards rushed to defensive positions. Citizens fled into shelters. The Empire's military scrambled to respond. Hannah was in the medical wing when the attack started. She felt Thalvor's rage through their bond. It burned hotter than a star. "Stay there," he commanded through their connection. "Stay safe." "Like hell," Hannah said. She pulled herself from the medical bed, despite the doctor's protests. Her legs shook, but she forced them to move. Thalvor emerged from the palace and took to the sky. His wings spread wide, catching the violet light. He was still recovering. He was not at full strength, but he was the Emperor, and no one attacked his world. He flew straight at the enemy fleet. The warships fired. Energy beams cut through the sky. Missiles streaked toward him. Thalvor dove and twisted through the attacks. His own fire breath turned 2 ships into molten slag. On the ground, Hannah reached the Defense Command Center. Officers stared at her in shock. "The Emperor told you to stay in medical," one said. "The Emperor doesn't get to make all the decisions," Hannah replied. She sat at a terminal and began analyzing the enemy positions. Through their bond, she could feel Thalvor's movements. She could sense his tactics. She knew what he would do before he did it. "Ship formation approaching from the east," she called out. 6 vessels. They're trying to flank him." "How do you know that?" "I just do. Redirect defense grid to Sector 7. Now!" The officers hesitated, then obeyed. The defense cannon swiveled. When the enemy ships appeared exactly where Hannah predicted, they were destroyed instantly. In the sky, Thalvor felt Hannah's presence in his mind. Her tactical thinking merged with his combat instincts. Together, they were more effective than either could be alone. He moved, and she coordinated defenses to support him. She called targets, and he destroyed them. They fought as one entity across 2 battlefields. House Corval had not expected this. They had thought the Emperor weak. They had not counted on the connection between him and the human, making them both stronger. The battle turned. The enemy fleet began to retreat. But Lord Corval had one final plan. He had sent assassins into the palace. If they killed Hannah, the Emperor would die too. Hannah felt the danger a second too late. She spun from the terminal as a blade flashed toward her. She threw herself sideways, but the blade caught her ribs. Pain exploded through her body. Through their bond, Thalvor felt her get stabbed. He roared in anguish and fury. He abandoned the battle and dug toward the palace at impossible speed. Guards killed the assassins, but the damage was done. Hannah collapsed on the floor. Blood pooled beneath her. The wound was deep. Too deep. "No, no, no." Park Miho ran to her side. "Get medical here now." Through their connection, Thalvor felt her life fading. The shared heart began to fail. If she died, he died. He crashed through the palace roof and landed in the command center. Stone cracked beneath his weight. He lowered his massive head to where Hannah lay. "Stay with me," he commanded. Trying, Hannah whispered. Her eyes were closing. "You don't get to die. You promised to fix me." "Job's not done yet," she agreed weakly. Dr. Kim Soo-yun rushed in with his team. He examined the wound and his face went pale. "She's dying," he said. "Which means he's dying. The shared heart is failing." "Then fix it." Thalvor roared. "We have one option," Dr. Kim said. "Nanite integration. We can permanently merge your biologies at the cellular level, but she'll be transformed. She won't be fully human anymore." Thalvor stared at Hannah's unconscious form. The choice was his to make. Transform her without consent, or let them both die. She's dying, which means he's dying. Dr. Kim Soo-hyun looked exhausted. "We have one option. Nanite integration, permanent biological merger, but she'll be transformed, no longer fully human." Thalvor stared at Hannah's unconscious form, the choice that would alter her forever, and he had to make it. "What does transformation mean?" Thalvor asked. "The nanites will rebuild her at the cellular level. They'll integrate Drakthar DNA into her body. She'll become a hybrid. Stronger, longer-lived, but different. She can never go back to being fully human. And if we don't do this, you both die within the hour." Thalvor looked at Hannah's pale face. Blood soaked through the bandages. Her breathing was shallow. Through their bond, he could barely feel her presence anymore. How could he make this choice for her? How could he change everything she was without asking? But if he didn't, they both died. He reached deeper through their connection, past the pain and fading consciousness, into her memories, into the core of who she was. He saw her childhood in the colonies, fixing broken equipment with her father, learning to never give up. He saw her climbing aboard the transport shuttle, excited for adventure. He saw the moment she decided to offer her heart, knowing full well what it might cost. She had known, not the specifics, but the possibility. She had walked this path with her eyes open. She had chosen him over her own safety, over her own humanity. Tears fell from Thalvor's golden eyes. They sparkled like diamonds on the stone floor. "Do it," he whispered. The medical team moved fast. They injected billions of nanites into Hannah's bloodstream. The tiny machine spread through her body like silver light in her veins. They began rebuilding her cell by cell. The process took 3 days. Thalvor never left her side. He watched the nanites work. He watched her body change. Her skin took on a faint pattern of scales. Her hair grew longer and gained a subtle shine. Her bones restructured themselves, making her taller and stronger. On the 3rd day, her eyes opened. They were still brown, but now they had flecks of gold. She blinked and looked around. Then she looked at her hands. They were larger, with subtle scales along the backs. "What happened to me?" Her voice sounded different, deeper and richer. "You were dying," Thalvor said gently. "We had to transform you to save us both." Hannah sat up slowly. She felt strong, stronger than she had ever felt. She could see better, hear better, smell things she never noticed before. She stood and looked at her reflection in a polished metal surface. She was taller now, almost 6.5 feet. Her body was lean and powerful. The scales on her skin shimmered slightly in the light. She looked like something between human and Drakthar, something new. "I'm not human anymore," she said quietly. "No," Thalvor admitted. "I am sorry. I had to choose. I could not let you die." Hannah touched her face. She felt tears on her cheeks, but also felt a strange new strength in her body. She was alive. Different, but alive. "How long will I live now?" "Centuries," Dr. Kim said softly. "Maybe as long as a Drakthar." Hannah laughed. It was a broken sound mixed with tears. "I can never go home. Not like this. Everyone I knew will age and die while I stay young." "Yes," Thalvor said. "You will be as lonely as I have been." Hannah turned to look at him. Through their bond, she felt his guilt and sorrow. But she also felt something else. Understanding. He knew what she was going through, because he had lived it for 800 years. "But I won't be alone," she said. "Will I? I have you." "Always," Thalvor promised. The weeks that followed were difficult. Hannah struggled with her new identity. She was no longer human, but not fully Drakthar either. She existed in between. Park Miho tried to comfort her, but he looked at her differently now. Everyone did, but slowly she adapted. The shared heart stabilized. The connection between her and Thalvor became natural instead of strange. They learned to exist as two beings with one life. The empire stabilized too. House Corval was destroyed. The other noble houses saw that Thalvor was not weak. He was stronger than ever with Hannah beside him. Hannah became the imperial advisor. She represented humanity in galactic politics. She used her unique position to help both species understand each other better. The hybrid human Drakthar became a symbol throughout the empire, proof that different species could work together. 6 months after her transformation, Hannah stood on the palace balcony. Ships from a dozen species arrived for diplomatic talks. The empire was growing stronger. Peace was spreading. Thalvor joined her on the balcony. His scales had regained their bioluminescent glow. He was healthy again. "Do you regret it?" he asked through their bond. Hannah thought about everything she had lost. Her humanity, her old life, the chance to grow old with people she had known. But she also thought about what she had gained. Strength, purpose, centuries to make a difference, and a companion who understood loneliness as deeply as she did. She touched her chest, feeling both hearts beating in perfect sync. One human born, one emperor's, now inseparable. "Not for a second," she said. Thalvor spread his wings against the sunset. Hannah's reflection was visible in his scales. They were different now, both changed by what they had shared. Neither quite who they were before, both something new. The Dragon Emperor and the human mechanic had saved each other. In doing so, they had changed the entire empire. They had proven that even the most unlikely connections could create something beautiful. Together, they watched the sun set over Ember Prime. 2 hearts, 1 life, 1 future. The end.